Well, hey, we're back to winning ways. But does that mean Liverpool are back? Or we'll discuss that during the show. Firstly, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for today's show. Liverpool finally got the dub last night against a strong, informed Villa team who beat Man City last week. But we also kept a clean sheet along with some improved performances throughout the team. So we'll review the match and also do the player ratings. But before I begin, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you'd like to call in, I've placed the link in the live chat, so I'll get callers in after the player ratings. So let's talk about the first half. Liverpool actually started the game the more uh, positive team. But having said that, Aston Villa also had their moments. Um, Morgan Rogers had a very early effort around the 5th minute as he smashes the ball onto the post with a lethal shot. And looking at that, I think it was also our wrongdoing in that matter. Our midfield setup was with Granberg as a DM in a single pivot, and Szoboszlai and McAllister playing as number eights. But Szoboszlai and McAllister were far up top, overcommitting in the press, and due to that, Rogers was yards ahead of them, and there was no one to pressurize Rogers in the counter attack there. But after that, Liverpool picked up a bit of momentum as they were more aggressive with the pressing and created a number of chances. Szoboszlai has a moment where he drives with the ball and then applies a long shot from 25 yards. Fortunately, just drags it wide. Then Gakpo had a bit of a weird moment where it looked like he was going to head the ball towards goal. Instead, he ended up finding Ekitike across the goal line. Um, and even Ekitike wasn't expecting it. He wasn't quite sure if he needed to head the ball or volley it. So in the end, it became a bit of a wasted opportunity. But then moments later, Villa had a breakthrough as Matty Cash went down that right hand side, strikes the ball with real power towards the near post, gets a slight deflection on Van Dijk, but Mamadashvili produces a phenomenal save to deny the right back. And Mamadashvili was then required to be in action again as Morgan Rogers hits a lethal shot from about 25 yards. The Georgian does really well to parry the ball away from danger. And then later on, Szoboszlai has a very, very big opportunity for Liverpool. Of course, you know how Szoboszlai works. He's the one that leads the press. And in this matter, he nicked the ball from his pressing. He's through on goal. He had a couple of players alongside him, but he went on goal, which I was pleased about. But the effort that he produced was a bit of a tame one. Straight at the keeper. For me, should have buried it. But Liverpool found the back of the net as Ekitike applies a fantastic header to make it 1-0. But unfortunately, it was ruled out for offside and it was the right decision. But that didn't stop Liverpool. Liverpool took advantage of a misplaced pass from Martinez. Salah does really well, scores with his first touch, an instinctive sort of reaction. I know it's a bit early to hand out gifts, but at this stage of our season, we'll take anything that comes our way. And Liverpool got the deserved lead just before half time. And in the second half, I think the intensity dropped a little bit, but nonetheless, the team was still creating chances, and I think we pretty much kept our shape as well. Um, Eventually, Liverpool got the upper hand as Gravenberch finds himself in an advanced position, strikes the ball with his left foot, gets a slight deflection, but hey, it's enough to guide the ball past Martinez to make it 2-0. But after that, Villa, fair play to them. They gave it their all, and Liverpool had to defend on the back foot. And as I mentioned, we had to keep our shape as a collective, and I feel like we did that for most parts. We blocked numerous um, challenges coming from set pieces or long throws, which has been a bit of our Achilles heel this season. And in the end, we did just about enough to get the win. In these kind of moments, you expect Liverpool, a team of our quality and dominance to control these sort of games, but due to our recent bad form, this is something probably we needed to do to try and get back to basics and you know defend better as a collective. So overall, a much better performance from the Reds. Now, I'm not going to go overboard and say we're back because, quite frankly, we're not. There were still weaknesses in our play that could have been exploited by a stronger team, respectively of Aston Villa. So there were, in my opinion, still chinks to our armor that needs to be fixed in order to play at our extreme level, where we're able to control and dominate our opponents. Like for example, there was a lot of phases in this game where when we attacked as a team, I think we overcommitted in numbers, and that shouldn't always be the case. Normally, um, in this game in particular, we had about 6 players in advanced positions, and only 4 players were, you know, in a deeper position defending for the team. Like for me, you've got to split it up. It's got to be 5 attackers and 5 defenders just to give the team the obvious balance there. Um, so just to present a few of my points there. There was this moment where, as I mentioned, the 5th minute, Morgan Rogers had the first shot on goal where he smashed it onto the post. Look at Sabozlai and McAllister who I've circled in that picture. Those two were way advanced. We were way overcommitted. You've got Gakpo who's trying to track back. He had a different role where he was trying to be the extra man in midfield, so cutting more inside, which I think did help us, and it overloaded the midfield, which we've actually kind of lacked this season. But these two guys are way too far up. And this is an attacking midfielder, Morgan Rogers, who's on the half term, still in his area in terms of his defensive half. But after this, he's driving on the ball on his own, because there's no midfielders around him, and he's able to take a shot on goal. So this was a point where I feel like we should have done better, or we should have learned from this moment where maybe we can't overcommit. Maybe it should be 5 players attacking and 5 defending rather than 6 attacking and 4 defending because the numbers don't work in that matter. And then in the same half, we had this issue where their new signing Gusan was through on goal. As you can see, Robbo, Konate, Van Dijk, Conor Bradley all tracking back. But look at Gravenberg and McAllister, who I've circled as well. They were too far up. They were too advanced in that sort of move, in that transition. So this is just my proof that we can't do 6 and 4. We've got to do 5 attackers, 5 defenders. I think that gives you the better balance and it gives you a great position to defend as a collective. You don't want it to be where we've got gaps in our midfield and teams are going through us like it's nothing. That's what it comes across for me. So yesterday, even though we got the win, let's be honest as well. The 2 goals that we scored were very fortunate on our part. It was a misplaced pass that led to the first goal, and the second one it was a deflection on goal. So this is not prime Liverpool the way we played yesterday. We played much better, but of course the benchmark wasn't very high due to our poor performances in recent weeks. So there's still areas of our game that I feel like we need to improve from a tactical point of view. I hope Arne does rectify it going forward, because if he thinks this is the winning formula, we're going to struggle. If I'm being brutally honest, but it's a good step in the right direction and it doesn't get any easier. We're facing Real Madrid on Tuesday, I believe, and then we've got Man City next weekend as well. So yeah, it doesn't get tougher than that. But at least we've got a bit of confidence, going forward because uh, it could have gone completely pear shaped. To be fair, and I labeled this game as a make or break. Not quite for Liverpool as a team, but more so for Arne Slot after fielding such a weak side against Palace and pretty much throwing the game away by having a reserve and academy um, players on the bench and in the starting lineup. If we had lost to Villa, I think the hierarchy would have seriously considered having conversations about the coach's position. Now, has my stance changed on Slot? No. And I've said it quite a few times on my previous show. I'm not quite Slot out because I believe he has credit in the bank to change it around. But also, I'll be quite frank. One of the reasons why I'm not completely slot out, or I wasn't completely slot out, is because I don't see there being a ideal candidate or an ideal manager available that can come in and change the fortunes of our club. It's all good once you sack the guy, but then who you bringing in? Because people naming the likes of Zidane. Zidane would never come to Liverpool. And I don't even know if I don't mean to disrespect, I don't know if coming to Liverpool will change the fortunes of our club. Like he's a good coach, was a sensational player, but he was coaching a Real Madrid team that was pretty much ready made for him. He had the fans backing him, he had the hierarchy backing him. He's a club legend, so when you've got that around you, it works well. But he hasn't been tested in other clubs or other jobs, so I will still have question marks about Zidane in that regards. And there's no really other candidate. I feel like, what, if he was to get sacked, this is the guy. There is no number one candidate for me. So that's why I've been a bit hesitant to say slot out. Because don't get me wrong, I've been frustrated for the last few weeks, and I'm sure you guys have as well. But we have to kind of bide our time and see how this team evolves. We improved against Villa, but I feel like there's still a long way ahead, in my opinion. And I'll say it again, I'm not convinced uh, by Slot from a tactical point of view. I think he still needs to find a system or formation that will fit all of our big players at the club. And I've been saying for weeks and months, I feel like we need to switch to a 4-4-2 diamond. I'm probably not going to stop saying that until it happens. Every player in our team fits that structure to the team, in my opinion. And fans will also ask that question, are we still in a title race? Now, look, despite how frustrating and vocal I've been in the last few weeks, I've never said we're out of the title race. Maybe that's me being a bit deluded, whatever you want to phrase it as. I still believe we can compete. Right now, we're in third place with 18 points, 7 points adrift from Arsenal. Look, they've looked fantastic this season. Let's not deny that. Defensively, they're sound and they don't concede many goals. And not only that, they have plenty of depth in defense as well as other departments in the squad. So they're in a fantastic position to win the title. So you have to regard them as favourites. But having said that, I don't think they're invincible. Let's not forget, we've beaten them this season, and other teams have shown that they can be attacked and they can be tested. So all we need to do now is focus on ourselves. Take it one game at a time and see where we are later in the season. We can't dwell on the position that we're in the league right now or think about our pursuit for the top spot. Because quite frankly, we can only blame ourselves for the drop off this season. I'm not buying that teams have figured us out and we can't handle the long ball tactics. Yes, you know, we've shown that we can be quite vulnerable and naive in set piece defending. But this is what you have to try and fix and try and resolve in training. It's simple as that. This is where coaching comes into play. But not only that, everyone bar a few players like Sabozlai. Um, you know, I think he's been outstanding this season, but everyone else, I think, have been below par. The huge volume of new players haven't clicked or gelled with the team, so that's why at times we look quite disjointed, or in the bigger picture, we actually look like a team full of individuals. So if the players continue to work hard in training and on the pitch as well, eventually things will change and we'll start seeing this new version of Arne Slot's team. But having said that, it will take time. Fans will need to be patient. So look, spoiler alert, it's going to be a long season ahead for us. But look, we can't just support the team and we're winning. We're not glory hunters. We have to be there when we're going through it. We're going through bad times. We're going through lows. So we have to support the team in this situation as well. So fingers crossed that this victory is a turning point for our season and we're back on track to challenge for major honors once again. Uh, Before we move on and do the player ratings, just going to go through some of the comments here. Um, Bo says, my Ozzie, we got Bo. He says, much, much better. Much, much better. I know the benchmark was a little bit lower than usual, but we were a lot better than what we have performed in recent weeks, and it's very, very positive. And I just hope we can tweak the team a bit better, where we're not fully overcommitting our midfielders into attack. So I feel like there was a lot of gaps in the middle of our park, and any other given day we could still be punished. We're facing Real Madrid and Man City, so if we're able to keep it compact in midfield and get results in those two games, it gives us a great platform going forward because you've got two of the strongest teams in Europe that we're facing next week, and if we can handle that kind of pressure, it's going to be a big test, and it's going to be proof that it can work going forward. So the Real Madrid one, for obvious reasons, I'm looking forward to it because, of course, we've got the return of Trent to Anfield, but more so than not, I think they've got a fantastic midfield. I don't know who's going to start in that game. We'll do a review, or should I say, a preview on Monday, and we can go into the lineups and see how they perform. I know they won 4-0 yesterday, so we'll see, how they're currently setting up. But in terms of numbers and midfielders that they have in the squad, they've got the likes of Tchouaméni and Camavinga, who for me would be dream signings for Liverpool. That's the kind of caliber of players they are, as well as Valverde. They've got other Goulet playing now, Bellingham. So they've got, really strong midfielders in that squad. So if we can handle that pressure against opponents like that, it puts us in a good light going forward. So got to stay positive. I don't think we're back. I'm not going to say out loud that we're back now, um, but we're in the right direction. And it had to come at some point. But if it hadn't happened in this game, the pressure would have piled up even further. And I think it would have been very hard to shrug that off because of the opponents we have next week in Real Madrid and Man City. So yeah, I'm thankful that we got the win. Uh, I know it's changed the mood amongst the fan base, and rightly so. And yeah, long may it continue. Bo says, Villa played in our hands, though. Basically, they did. They didn't really do their homework. If I'm being brutally honest, they didn't play many long balls, and they played their game, which fell to our hands because they tried to go toe to toe with us in that regards. And I don't think that would have been the right time. If I was Unai Emery, I would have looked at the recent results and say, look, it might not be our game, but as a one-off, let's just go long. Let's just ping balls over the top and try and really, shake them out. Even if they had just done it for the first half, I think they would have got a lot of luck because they showed moments where they could have scored. They hit the post quite a few times during the game. So, they could definitely have, got the results that they wanted in that kind of shape. But for me, we defended better, so that helped. But having said that, there are still areas of our game that we need to improve going forward. Both said Verts or Chiesa in for Real Madrid. The rest stays for me. Curtis could play it fit. Isak as well with Ekatike out left. It's going to be interesting in terms of how we set up. Verts or Chiesa. I, I, I feel like I'm probably going to sing the same tune. I would start Chiesa. I probably would start him ahead of Gakpo in this team. A lot of fans were suggesting that Mohamed Salah should be dropped and Chiesa comes in to replace him because on paper, technically, Chiesa is Salah's backup. But I like seeing Chiesa on that left wing. I feel like he's very intelligent in that position. It's just not about pace and power for him. He's very tactical in terms of the runs that he makes. He finds the right spaces in the pockets. He knows when to thread that pass to the overlapping fullback, which Gakpo doesn't do at all. Gakpo has no self-awareness when he is on the left and then cuts in because he never looks at the fullback. He just doesn't have that in his locker, unfortunately. So for me, if Chiesa is in a good shape, which against Palace he was probably one of our best players, I think this would be a great game to start Chiesa. So I would go Chiesa on the left. In terms of the midfield, I would go with Verts as well, personally. I don't think Slot will. I would go with Chiesa, Verts, and then have Sabozda and Groundberg as your double pivot. So maybe drop McAllister, but use him as an impact sub later in the game. Curtis, hope he will be available because he'll be a fantastic option off the bench. Isak, I'm not sure in terms of his availability, but he would definitely have a chance or definitely be involved in this upcoming fixture. Bo has also said Chiesa is better out left. Yeah, to be fair, he's good on the right as well. When Salah's not available and Chiesa plays there, I don't mind Chiesa on the right because he has played a lot of his games in his career on that side. So for me, there's no sort of issues with Chiesa on the right. It's just that he's multifunctional. But for what we need in our team, I'm not dropping Chiesa. I'm sorry, I'm not dropping Salah to accommodate Chiesa. I'd rather drop Gakpo, who I don't think has hit the heights. And I feel like with Chiesa on that left hand side, you get more end product on that part of the pitch. So that's what I would do going forward. But let's see, what Slot's ideas are. Um, Bo says, but who are we kidding? Chiesa will never start a Premier or Champions League game for Liverpool. I hope that's not the case because yeah, it's frustrating. Obviously, got the start in the Carabao Cup, but yeah, I'm hoping and praying he does because he deserves it. He got Player of the Month for us as an award, as an individual award, and Slot was bemused by it when he was asked in a press conference, saying that he was surprised that our fifth choice attacker got that award, which was a bit of a slight diss. I didn't like the way he answered that question, to be fair, but in general, I think he's been fantastic for us against Palace. I know we had a lot of young players in the team, but the way he led the team was really well. He was fantastic in the pressing. He really set the tone. And that's why I think for the first 40 minutes in that game against Palace, we actually were decent, as a collective. And unfortunately, when we conceded the goal, it kind of went all pear shape after that. But we looked solid as a defensive unit. And I think that is because of Chiesa. Of course, he's not a defender, but he sets the tone from the pressing, and then you end up having the team following you, and then you basically set the tone with your pressing for the whole team. So it does come from the front. So hopefully, you know, he gets a start because I think it's well deserved. Um, but who knows, why he hasn't had that start for Liverpool in either Premier League or the Champions League. Uh, Bosses think he will leave in January, to be honest. That is a shame if that is the case. I think he'll stay until the end of the season, and then I think for them from then onwards he will leave. Um, because he's still getting selected with the international team, the Italian national team. So I believe Gattuso is the coach, and I think he's been quite pleased with his contribution. So I think the coach will still have him in his mind to select Chiesa for the World Cup. But I think once the season ends, he'll probably evaluate his season and say, "Look, this coach doesn't rate me for whatever reason. He doesn't rate me." Um, and he might think, being at the club for 2 years is the right time for him to move on. And it'll be a shame because I like Chiesa. I rated him before he was a Liverpool player. Of course, he was a different player. He was arguably one of the best wingers, a few years ago. But of course, due to injuries, it affected his dynamic sort of speed when he's playing. But he's still got the intelligence. He's still effective. He might not be as quick as he used to be, but he's still effective on the wings, in my opinion. He just plays a different way now. So I hope he gets a start. I would love for him to stay. I don't think he'll leave in January, but next summer, I think it is a possibility. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with him in the future. Bo says Slot hates Chiesa. Can you actually think of any reasons why? Because I can't. Honestly, I have no idea. Unless he's got some dirt on him for whatever reason, Slot just doesn't like him at all. I find that really weird as well because you can see there's a player really working hard for the team, and he's a positive figure around the squad. Whenever you watch these videos on the LFC YouTube channel, it seems like he's very well liked. He's not a disruptive character or anything of that nature. So I don't know. I really don't know. So really puzzling one if I'm being honest with you. Um, Maybe a personal issue. God knows. Only God knows, to be honest with you. Ozan as always says, thank goodness the Prem losing streak is over. Yeah, thank goodness indeed. Ozzy, IDJF about Madrid. We need points against City. Um, I hear you, but I don't know. I feel like if we can produce a great performance against Madrid and get a win, I just feel like it's gonna give us such a big confidence boost that when we go into City, we're gonna feel like ourselves again. So I think if we lose against Madrid, I think it's one step forward and two steps back. That's how it's gonna feel like. So I really hope we go for it against Madrid, and it's going to be a big test because they've got some fantastic players. in their squad, especially the likes of Tchouaméni and Camavinga, who I'm sure you will know I rate very, very highly. So if we can get result past that level of midfield, then it puts us in a great position going forward. So I think we need to go all out and try and get the points or get something out of the game, even if it's a draw. I'm not against that. It's more about maintaining this confidence or this positive morale within the squad. Because if you win and then lose again, and you've had four back-to-back defeats in the league, it doesn't bode well. It goes back. You start having self-doubt again, and I don't want that to happen with our squad. So hopefully, we do go all out. We present a good team. We're tactically more compact in that midfield. Then hopefully we get something out of the game. And of course, we'll be seeing number 66. Well, he's number 12 there now, but our former number 66 coming back to Anfield. So he thinks he's gonna get a good reception. I saw a little interview of him. He's out of his mind if he thinks he's gonna get a good reception from us. Even just looking at that interview, I've only watched like a small snippet. I think it's like a 20-minute interview, so I might check it out after this show. But yeah, like it feels really weird seeing Trent as a opponent. I never thought I'd see that day, to be honest with you. But hey, it is what it is. And look, he's gone. I don't want to sound like I'm bitter, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna have to show him any respect or applaud him when he comes on. It really shouldn't be that kind of party. So let's see what the Anfield crowd is like. But I hope that they don't applaud him because it's not the time and place to do that. Bo says he'll probably replace Liao at Milan after the season. Where do you think Liao would go? Because I rate Liao very, very highly, really high. I think he's fantastic. He's a player that I really wanted, for us to sign when Luis Diaz left. And of course, he performed against us in the pre-season fixture and looked really good as well. But yeah, he could be the option there. He'll have a lot of suitors in Serie A. I know the likes of Napoli were interested in him as well, Inter Milan, Atalanta. There's quite a few teams that wanted him. So it wouldn't be a surprise, if he goes back to Italy. Um, so yeah, let's see what the future holds. I hope he stays. Need to win both. I agree. I think we need to win both, to be fair. Trent said he wouldn't celebrate when he scores. Hard to do that from the bench. Do you know what? That's funny. He might not even get a start. Um, but yeah, do you know what? I'm intrigued to see what the response is going to be. I don't expect it to be cheers. I really don't. We can't be that sort of short-minded where we've forgotten about what he did. I'm not gonna forget. For me, he's not really high in my books. And then I see his brother streaming as well, reacting to matches. I think he's trying to do like watch alongs, and yeah, that irritates me even further. So yeah, he's not in my good books at all. Ozzy with the comment says, I'm fixated on defending the Prem right now. Ozzy, I don't think we have what it takes to fight on multiple fronts. I hear you. And that's why, even though I was frustrated with what Slot did in terms of fielding a weakened team against Palace, but not only that, having a bench full of kids, that just gave me the idea that he's not committed for this game. Like he's pretty much throwing in the towel. So the result was quite irrelevant. I think he would have been absolutely surprised if we had got a win against Palace in that game, and it probably would have messed up his plans because that's not what he would have expected. So I think this stuff probably doesn't sound right, speaking out loud, but us not being in the Carabao Cup, I don't really mind. After when we lost that game, it probably sounded like, oh yeah, here we go. Like Ozzie's just gonna pretend like he didn't care about the game. In my match preview, I said we were gonna be rotated quite heavily, but I expected us to have some big guns on the pitch, or should I say on the bench. And when I saw the team sheet, I was like, yeah, he's not going for it. Like he doesn't care about this competition this year. So and I'll be honest with you, I understand it, to be honest with you. But the thing was, it was a big risk, a big gamble, because if he had lost against Villa, I think the pressure would have risen for him, and his future at the club would have been in jeopardy. Like he took a big risk doing that. So, um, but look, for me, I'm concerned about the Premier League as well. I'm not saying we're going to win the league. I did say that earlier in the season, but in terms of current affairs. I expect us to be in and around of a title race in the Premier League. And look, the Champions League as well. I still want us to give us a go in that competition. You know, it's a competition where we've got great history, and I feel like with the players that we have, our game probably suits the European style even more. So for me, if I see a weakened squad against Madrid, I'll be very disappointed with Slot, if I'm being honest with you, because that's not the route to go. So I really hope that we go strong because that's going to build that momentum. That's going to give us confidence going forward. Chopping and changing is not going to help, if I'm being honest with you. So fingers crossed, we have a good team, but let's see, what occurs in that fixture. Ozan says, at least when Stevie G left the club, he went to another club that we would never play apart from friendlies. Yeah, it's true. And even when Stevie G left, I think if he had gone to a European club, would we have felt betrayed? Possibly, but I don't think it would have been the same level for Trent because I feel like Trent has engineered this move for a few years. It's not just something that came around. I saw a clip the other day where apparently he only started learning Spanish from January for 5, 6 months. And, the guy was speaking like he's a native, so make that make sense. So for me, that's absolute nonsense as well. So if he's so great at picking up languages, maybe he's got to learn a few more and not just stick to English. So for me, yeah, when Stevie G left, I feel like it hurt a bit more because I didn't think he was finished. Like I feel like he still could have contributed to our team, but then again, we had Brendan Rodgers who thought otherwise and told him that he's going to be a bench player, which never say that to Stevie G. Come on now, but he was a bit, above his threshold where I don't think he deserved to be a Liverpool coach. But hey, we have made mistakes when it comes to managerial appointments in the past, and that's why I haven't been very strong with saying slot out. I've been on the cusp. Don't get me wrong, I've been on the cusp, especially after that Palace defeat. But I think until we don't know who would be a suitable candidate, I think we just got to stick with the coach until the end of the season. But we'll see what happens going forward. Bo with the comment says, Trent is not a real scouser. He's a rat. Deserves to get booed and destroyed on Tuesday. Anyone who doesn't need to get banned. Look, if people are applauding for it, every fan is sort of entitled to react how they want to in a game. I'm not expecting him to get lots of cheers. I'm expecting it to be like 90% boos and 10% cheers for some of the faithfuls in that regards. But if I'm hearing more cheers, I'll be so disappointed. Honestly, he doesn't deserve that. And some will say, "Well, look, he's a Liverpool legend because of what he's done and what he's achieved." I'm not ready to have that conversation. Talk to me when he's retired, and maybe we'll have that conversation. Right now, I can't even put him in that kind of running because of what he's done, the way he left the club. I sound proper bitter, because someone left Liverpool. It's not just someone left Liverpool; it's the manner and the way he carried himself and the way he left Liverpool. That's what really, really, hurts. And it's a bit deep in terms of how he did it, and being a scouser even worse. So yeah, I ain't got time for that guy at all. But also, doesn't people realize that Uji is our biggest rivals outside from England? No one who moves from us to them deserves nothing. Yeah, and I know people think that's funny when you're like, well, you don't really have European rivals. Well, but we do. We've got history with this team. We've lost two finals against them in recent years, and that still hurts. So they're the most successful European team. We're one of the most sort of successful teams from England that plays in Europe, of course. But we're trying to get to that level as well. So no, we both got history, we both got heritage, and I do feel like we there is a rivalry there because of the amount of games we've played in recent years. It's got nothing to do with where we're based geographically or anything like that. It's just that we seem to face them a lot, and we faced them in cup finals. So then you've already built that rivalry from doing that, if that makes sense. So yeah, if people don't think it's a rivalry, I disagree. I do think it is a rivalry. It's just that, of course, when it's your whole domestic league, it's different because you're expecting to face each other unless your rival gets relegated, right? So yeah, think of it what you will. Um, Boss, will it be for you team? I bloody hope not. Honestly, um, I would lose it if it's our youth team. I'd be look. I might be slot out. I might switch trains straight away. There's no one fielding a youth team against Liverpool. That would be suicidal. Who could those 10% be? What's the 10% in regards to? I hope that's not in terms. Oh, in terms of the fans, because when that whole Trent sort of situation happened, especially online, from what I saw, um, I found some fans were looking at the glass half full, where they were like, "Well, look what," and and I think also what happens with fans that watch a lot of content online and through the lenses of rival fans. You notice, right? Rival fans started giving Trent a lot of plaudits when they knew that he was leaving Liverpool, right? He never got those plaudits before, for obvious reasons, because obviously, they know he's leaving Liverpool. But the truth came out their mouths. They knew that Trent is a generation talent, despite them saying for years and years, oh, he's shit, he can't defend, all that sort of stuff. So it came out. The truth came out amongst the rival fans. And I think when people see that kind of content, they're like, you know what? It's so true. Like he's been sensational for us. He's done this for us, he's done that. So I think those 10% still have that in that mind frame because when you ask certain fans, who's the best right back you've seen in your Liverpool lifetime as a fan, they all say Trent, and we'll probably say Trent as well if we have to be honest. Um, so some fans see it in a different light where they feel like, you know what, he is a former player, but we have to respect him as a human being, and he wanted a challenge, so therefore he's left. So he deserves a bit of praise for what he gave us to the club. So those are that 10%. But I'm different. I'm not. I'm probably a bit more emotional. And I feel like when someone disrespects me, it's very hard for me to, regain that faith or regain that same level of respect again with that person. I don't know Trent personally, but I felt disrespected the way he left. So for me, it's the same thing. I don't think he's going to get that respect from me. I know a lot of fans share that sentiment as well. So you'll always get some crowds that will just look at it differently. Um, but I'm expecting most fans to be still frustrated with him. To be honest with you, Bo said maybe Rio comes on and destroys that rat. Oh, I'd love for him to do that. Rio's definitely got to be on the bench because remember there are tapes from training sessions last season where number 66 got cooked by Rio. They haven't been released yet, but we might see it in real life. Might see it in a professional game. So I really hope Slot does that. I don't know if Slot's got that pickness in him. But if I was Slot, I'd bring him on and just if he's on the pitch, like you said, he might not even start, he might be on the bench. So but if he comes off the bench, bring on Rio. That's what I would do. Just torment him throughout that remainder of the game because it needs to be done, in my opinion. Ozzy says Ozzy will be slot out if he plays Maronello again. Bloody hell. I feel sorry for the kid. I do. But two consecutive red cards is wild. I don't think I've ever had any Liverpool player ever do that. Um, but yeah, if he starts, the game's done, isn't it? I don't think he will, to be fair. But hey, you never know these days what other things have happened on the pitch. So let's move on and do the player ratings before I do. I just see a comment from Bo saying those 10% are stupid. I hear you, but I always say, just to be respectful to everyone, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I strongly disagree with that opinion that, he deserves to be applauded on his return. But you always get a minority, whether it's good or bad in that regard. So yeah, it is what it is. So let's move on and do our player rating. So let's start with Mamadashvili. I thought Mamadashvili was really, really solid last night against Villa. The improvements that I've seen in recent games, his distribution, he looked more composed. I wouldn't say he's cracked the code or anything like that, He looked more composed. He was more self-aware in terms of his distribution. He wasn't going for silly passes, kept it simple. So that's positive. Had to make a couple of big saves, especially that Matty Cash strike. I thought I was going top bins, but that was a phenomenal save. So his shot stopping, which I don't think has ever been in doubt because I think that is his main skill set. But he showcased that last night and overall seemed like a positive figure in that back line and performed really well. So for Mamardashvili, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Um, Now, let's move on to right back in Connor Bradley. I'll be honest with you guys, I was a little bit disappointed with Connor Bradley last night against Villa. I think he made a good few runs, especially down that right hand side, but his decision making was quite poor. There were times where I'm expecting him to shoot, which he doesn't. He ends up, providing a low cross, and the low crosses that he was doing, they weren't really pinpoint accurate. They were just, close your eyes, hope for the best, and they'll find someone. That's what it felt like to me. And there was moments in our play where, Salah's trying to do a 1-2 with him, but then he'll go back and pass it back to the centre back. So he killed a few of our moves or killed the momentum going forward. So yeah, had a not the best of games. He improved in the second half. I will give him that. I think he was a bit more polished. Was more purposeful in his runs. Almost scored. Had a great shot in the second half as well. So I thought he was better, but not a supreme performance in my opinion. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Excuse me. Kanate was better in this game. More dominant, more composed on the ball. Um, had a bit of troubles against Watkins. There was a couple of times where Watkins went past him with ease. But nonetheless, a solid performance. Not his best performance. No, nothing where I got to really rave about. But it was a solid performance. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Didn't show too many weaknesses. So I thought it was a solid performance overall. So for Kanate, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Van Dijk, I thought he was solid yesterday. I really do. Um, he was more dominant yesterday. A lot of headers. Distribution was good. Got a silly yellow card in the end, but I thought overall he was really, really good yesterday. Slowly getting back to his best. That's the way I saw it last night. So in terms of his rating, I'll give him an 8.5 out of 10. Robertson, someone that I've said for a few weeks now, he needs to start. I just feel like we need his experience and his leadership and his know-how on the pitch because Kirkes for me just seems a bit all over the place. He's got the raw qualities, but he's not refined. He's mentally, I don't think he's ready to start for Liverpool. It's a big step when you move to a club like Liverpool where the expectations are different, where we're expecting high level performances week in, week out. Um, of course, we're a fan base that are very supportive of our players, but he would have felt the pressure, going into a club. So I think right now it's probably best to rotate the two. Specific games will suit Kirkes, uh, and specific games will suit Robertson. So I was pleased that he was selected in this game, and I thought he was fantastic. He had a different kind of role, and I feel like that's something I'm a little bit confused from Slot, where it doesn't matter if it's Kirkes or Robertson. The structure or the tactic is the same. The left back seems to have more freedom. The way Trent did on the right hand side for us last season, or like previous years, the left back is getting that more freedom now. Where Robertson was inverting quite a lot, but at the same time he was on the overlap. Um, and then he's in goal scoring opportunity. So I thought he was really really good yesterday. Despite playing unfamiliar territory at some point, I thought he was really really solid. So For me, I'm going to give Robbo a 9. I was very impressed with Robertson. I thought he was so calm and composed on the ball, made the right pass at the right time, didn't, disrupt our overall play. So really, really impressed with him going forward. Uh, McAllister. McAllister was much better. I'm I'm not saying McAllister's back because I know a lot of fans have started saying that online, and some fans can be quite reactionary. I don't think he's back to his best, and far, far from it, in my opinion. Um, but he showed improvements. He certainly did. It came from getting involved in tussles with Onana. Um, even though he didn't win those tussles, he got pushed to the ground quite a few times. But the fight was there, which you got to admire to some extent. Um, but his distribution was better. He was um, involved in the build-up play a bit more. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I feel like it's not his fault because I think this is a instruction for him. But he was quite overcommitted when it comes to forward runs, and that led to gaps in the midfield. And I feel like that needs to be tweaked because then you're exposing his weaknesses because he's not a runner. Like he's not going to track back faster than anyone like Szoboszlai or Gravenberch. So for me, you got to play him in a more deeper role. But at the same time, I want to see Gravenberch in a more deeper role because that is our DM. So it's a mix of the two in terms of what works for the team. But I feel like he was much better, showing a bit more aggression, a bit more fight in that second half. So yeah, a better performance from 10. So in terms of his rating, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Gravenberch, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think he had a great first half. He was very wasteful with possession, gave the ball away numerous times. His first touch wasn't quite there. But let me give him the benefit of the doubt. He's just come back from injury. So whenever you haven't played, competitive football for quite some time, it takes some time to get used to, the feel of the ball and back into that sort of rhythm. Second half, much, much better. Better on the ball. Of course, scored the goal. Got a bit of luck with that deflection, but you got to make your own luck sometimes as well. So no, much improved and better performance from going back. And let's be honest, we've missed him. And that's why I'm so surprised that we didn't go for another centre midfielder because we need that in our squad. But hey, we'll talk about transfers another time. But in terms of Groundberg, solid performance from the Dutchman. Good to see him back in action. Good to see him scoring a goal as well. So he gets an 8 out of 10 for me. Salah, much, much better. That's the Salah that I expect to see, going forward. Feel like he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He played with real purpose, real aggression. There were times he was ready to take 2, 3 man on. Like he did that numerous times. Wasn't always successful, but you got to show that fight as well. And there was times in the last few weeks where he was just afraid to take on one fullback. So, the script has changed for him in that regard, which is good, which is positive for Liverpool. Um, was really good on the ball. Like he wasn't just making mazy runs. Planned his runs really well. When there wasn't an opening for him, he used his game intelligence. He came inside and was trying to either fed the through ball or go for goal with a shot. Um, one sort of negative that I noticed in the game, he still hasn't found a great understanding with Ekatike. There were numerous times where I think Ekatike was asking for the ball, but Salah would ignore it and go for a different type of pass. Like there was one moment where I think Ekatike dropped deep and Salah just hit over the top and tried to find gap on the near post. So they haven't quite formed a relationship. So that's why we're not seeing a lot of service towards Ekatike, which is probably why I don't think he was as impactful in this game. So that's something that needs to be worked on, and it's something he has said previously in interviews where he's still trying to figure out how to work with the likes of Ekatike and Isak. But with Ekatike, it's something that should be quite a quick one to fix because of his way of playing. Ekatike can drop deep, can be on the front foot as well. but you got to build that understanding. He's not one dimensional. If he was a one dimensional player, then I feel like it's easier to form relationships with another player like that. But if you aren't sure, because there'll be times where he's dropping deep and the side is expecting him to go forward, you're not on the same wavelength. So that will come with more training, more game time together, and I think eventually it will click this season. But overall, good performance from Salah. Uh, Instinctive finish with his right foot. Some players would have controlled it, especially left-footed players, would have controlled it on his left or right, or put it towards the left-hand side and try and curl it around. He saw the gap and went with a right-footed finish. So yeah, smart finish there from the Egyptian King. So in terms of his rating, I will give him an 8 out of 10. So Bosley, the Boz, who I've referenced over the years, he was the Boz in this game. He was fantastic. He was everywhere. He dominated. Onana just couldn't get past him. Onana was on the floor holding on to his face numerous times. He was in for a battle. And usually on paper, thinking, oh, Onana always gets the upper hand because he's a very physical midfielder. But fair play to Sabos, like he didn't give him any ground. He didn't give him a chance to get around him. He was solid, dominant, very good on the ball, making great driving runs as well, shooting as well, which is good to see. Something I feel like he's been a bit, gun shy in recent months. So I'm good to see, he's having shots on goal, especially when he's created such a great opening for himself. Should have scored, if I'm being honest with you. Should have scored, especially that chance in the first half. But overall, a supreme performance. And yeah, really, really happy with his development because, you'll go on to other shows. I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but I've been his fan for a long, long time. I wanted him as a dream signing before he joined Liverpool. So I've watched him at Leipzig, at Salzburg, because when he was at Salzburg, he was a player that was banging in goals from long distance. And I like those type of players. Growing up watching midfielders that can, hit screamers from all over the pitch. And you don't really get that in this day and age. So when I saw that kind of talent, I'm thinking, do you know what? I need to follow this guy. And we've got links with him, over the years as well. Um, but it came at a surprise that when we actually signed him, because I wasn't expecting us to go for his kind of profile. And thank God we did, because he's been, for me, by far best player this season. It's not even a debate, if I'm being brutally honest with you. And it's good to see because when we signed Florian Wirtz, I think everyone thought his days were numbered, where people thought he's a backup to Wirtz now. He's not going to get into this team. But he showed his desire, he showed his quality as a player, and he's given the manager a headache where he's like, look, you can't drop me. I'm producing 10 out of 10 performances. I dare you to drop me. That's the kind of attitude he's got. And look, some people see that as arrogance or cockiness. I see that as confidence. He believes in his ability. So I like that in a player, to be honest with you. And Slot can't keep him out of the team. It's as simple as that. He really can't. There are other players that I feel like more droppable than Sabozlai. So, that's something that the manager needs to figure out going forward. But in terms of this performance, a stellar performance from Sabozlai. So for me, I'm going to give him a 9.5. I would have given him a 10, but I was disappointed that he didn't score because he should have scored that chance in the first half. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh there. But, you know, got to critique when it's right as well. So for me, if he had scored that goal, would have been 10 out of 10. Gakpo, much better performance in recent weeks, but then again, the benchmark wasn't high, was it? Um, he's still doing those, predictable runs where he comes inside, but this time round, he was finding the runs of the fullback, i.e. Robertson, because they already have a relationship, so they know how each other move, and it works. That's why I feel like we looked very balanced on that left-hand side, which hasn't been the case for quite a while this season. So that was good to see. Um, I feel like Gakpo could have been a bit better on the ball, to be fair, but nonetheless, did his thing. Had a few shots. There's one shot, I remember, that he skied over the goal. So not one of his best moments, but overall, decent effort. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10. In terms of Ekitike, good performance. Highlight of the game was that skill that he did, where he flicked it behind and made the run. So of course, showing his flair and creativity on the pitch, which I love to see. I love to see attacking players, especially strikers, do that. Good performance, worked hard for the team, was very much involved in our pressing, which we haven't seen much from our strikers, but he definitely led the way in this game. But unfortunately, I don't think we gave him a lot of service. So whether that's coming from Gakpo or Salah or any of our midfielders, I think we needed to find him uh, in more sort of better goal scoring positions. Just couldn't unlock the defense or thread that through ball that we needed. I think Verts would have helped because I think they've formed a good relationship on the pitch. But the others, I don't think it's quite there yet, if I'm being honest with you. But nonetheless, good performance from Exeter. Such a shame that goal that he scored in the first half didn't count. Um, but yeah, he was offside to be fair. So in terms of his performance, I will also give him a 7 out of 10. So that is my player rating. You already know who's the man of the match. It's not even a debate, and that is Dominic Soboza. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know your ratings or let me know who your man of the match is. Uh, Before I go into the comments, I'm just going to check our substitutes. We only made one sub, which is a little bit unusual. We normally make 3 or 4 or even 5 at times. So one sub, and it was Ekitike on for Florian Wirtz. And I'll be honest with you, Wirtz wasn't good when he came on. I think he had a bit of a stinker, to be fair. I remember him having a great turn of pace, driving the ball, and just misplaced the pass, and it went out for a throw in. So yeah, not the best of cameos. Um, don't think he was in the right state of mind to play. I'm not making excuses for him, but I feel like there's games where you're probably thinking, "Nah, I'm not going to start today. I'm just going to chill, sit back, chat to my teammates on the bench." And all of a sudden, the coach is like, "Yeah, you're on." So maybe he just wasn't expecting to play because he didn't look like he was fully in tune with the game at all. So yeah, had a bit of a stinker, if I'm being honest with you. And some fans might not believe that I've just criticized Verts because apparently I'm the president of his defense league. But I'm always honest with my assessments and judgment as well. So in terms of his rating, um, give him a 5 out of 10. I don't think he was good at all. Very, very bang average. So that is my rating for him. Uh, and that is my player rating. Let's go through the comments and let's see what everyone has said. Um, Ozan Kabak says McAllister played a lot better than he has previously. That incident with Anana really fired up Maka up. Yeah, like after the funny part of that incident was that he got floored, he got dropped to the ground, and he's still like on to the crowd, and it's like, yeah, you realize you just got pushed to the ground. But all right, if that fires you up and if it improves your performance, let it be. I'm happy for you to go with the flow in that regards. But yeah, he was more aggressive. Like he was definitely playing in a more angry manner, which is good. You gotta do that sometimes because he hasn't shown any form of expression. He's not been aggressive. He's not been energetic. So I need to see that. So it was good to see that. Let's hope that the performances match that aggression now going forward. And he needs to have that aggression from the first minute. It can't come because Onana or someone like Onana's pushed you out of the way. You need to have that mentality from the start of the game. I've watched, I'm sure everyone else has the documentary with Michael Jordan, and I remember one of his statements where he was saying that, oh, there were times where he needed to feel like he was pissed off. So if someone stepped on his toe that day, he would like use that as a not as a motivation, but as a negative to be like, I'm gonna prove that person that that stepped on my toe that I'm the best or something like that, just to trigger an aggression when he went into games. Pastor's got to adopt that philosophy because it needs to be embedded in you, especially when you're a midfielder. I don't feel like you can just be nicey when you're playing on the pitch. You got to be aggressive. You got to show them the upper hand at times. So hopefully you can add that to his locker because it's needed. If I'm being brutally honest. Ozzie, no, no. Bradley was very good yesterday. 8 for me, 7.5 at least. Fair enough. I wasn't hugely impressed with him. I feel like the players around him, you can see the improvement in their game. I don't think, Conor Bradley excelled yesterday, but that's just my opinion. I just didn't, because there was a lot of times where during the watch along, I remember being so frustrated with him. So I don't feel like it was one of his better performances, but fair enough if that is your score. But I'm gonna stick to 6 out of 10 for Bradley. Double D, big up Double D as always. He says Dom is our player of the season thus far. Facts, 100%. You know me, I'm not going to disagree with you because you already know how I feel about Sabozlai. But yeah, it's a fact. Played everywhere but keeper. Listen, there might be time where he's got to be keeper as well. So the guy can do it all, I guess. So yeah, he's been fantastic this season. Ozan with the comment saying Sobo is the engine of the squad. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Um, and also commenting saying, without him, we struggle to win games or even be competitive. Nobody matches energy and commitment on both defense and going forward. Facts. Facts again there, Ozan. Literally, I feel like what we've lacked this season is energy and application from our players. Suppose that has done that with abundance. That's the difference. If everyone played to that level with Suppose honestly, we wouldn't be in this issue. We really wouldn't be in this issue at all. So yeah, if it wasn't for him, God knows where it would be. And let's not forget, he's had to play right back, centre mid, attacking mid every game. Like he's played two, three different roles every single game. Of course, the last two, 3 games, he's been given more stability, which is good to see from Slot because I feel like Slot was going to take the mick and keep playing in these kind of positions. But no, he's been fantastic. So I'm very, very happy and very pleased for Sabozlai because he deserves all the plaudits, in my opinion. Or then say man of the match on a stop for escaping the sack. You you might be right. Because if he did get a loss, honestly, I think the fan base would have completely lost any faith with him going forward. And I think I might have been slot out as well if he had lost yesterday. So sounds extreme, but look, when you're doing things like that, you can't back the coach, making silly mistakes like fielding kids and then losing your next game as well. So yeah. Probably did save himself from the sack, to be fair. Bo says, Sobo, future captain. Definitely. Definitely is a future captain. He's a captain by trait because, of course, in previous clubs, he has been captain for his national team, which is, of course, Hungary. He is the captain for them as well. So, definitely, why not? Why not? Why can't he be a Liverpool captain in the future? Van Dijk's not going to be here for too long. Uh, I hope he is, personally. Um, but, once Van Dijk does depart from the club, we need to find a candidate, and he's the right profile in terms of what he brings to the table, in terms of his ability, but age as well. He's quite young in his mid 20s. Maybe even I don't think he's even mid 20 yet, is he? He's quite a young player, so he's definitely got a player that's got room to grow. He's 25, so he's mid 20s. So um, has leadership quality, plays in a great manner, leads by example. Why not? It could be a future candidate for the captaincy in the future. So yeah, I agree with that one. I think he could be in the long run. Bowles says Bradley will tackle Mbappe again. Phew, that would be interesting. Obviously we'll cover the match preview tomorrow, but I mean, intrigued to see how they're saying that because Mbappe for me looks more polished in that striker role now. So I don't think he'll be attacking the channels knowing Bradley's there, but it's still going to be an interesting battle between the two teams on Tuesday. So yeah, should be an exciting game for us to watch. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Bo. Big up as always. Big thank you to Oz and Kabak. Big up as always for you as well. And Double D. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming show, the Real Madrid game is on Tuesday. Let me just quickly check. I thought it was Wednesday for some reason. So let me just double check that. It's on Tuesday. So that means tomorrow we'll be doing our match preview of this game. And then we'll do the live watch along of Liverpool versus Real Madrid. It's going to be a very fiery and intense game. And that's me talking about myself, not about even the players. And then we'll do the match reaction. And then, yeah, we'll do the match preview of uh, Liverpool and Man City on Thursday night. And then we'll do the watch along for that game. I think it's Sunday, isn't it? As well. So yeah, lots of content coming your way, guys. Just got a couple of comments here from Bo. Would love Jones to get a goal against Madrid to show who the real Scouser is. Yeah, that would be great. Not only that, I'd love for Jones to do a crunching tackle on Trent. Honestly, I would love that and show a bit of like aggression towards it as well. That would be the icing on the cake for me. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Ozzy, come back with the comments and see you tomorrow night. Ozzy, big up yourself, Ozzy, come back. Appreciate your support as always. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.